Welcome back to Cointelegraph Japan YouTube channel, everybody. Today, as you saw on the thumbnail and title, we have special guests. We have Wei from Flow. Thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you everyone for having me. It's my pleasure.
Yeah, this is like a super exciting because like Flow is the fastest growing blockchain this year. Is it correct?
Yeah, on many metrics, that's the case.
Okay, so today, so in this video, I wanna learn about you and basic information about Flow because Flow is maybe not like accessible from Japanese exchange. Maybe many people don't even know what about it. But I want to know how crazy this year has been for you guys, all the metrics.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's dig into that. So maybe before getting to that, could you maybe introduce yourself to Japanese community?
Yeah, sure. Hello everyone. My full name is Wei Yu. I'm currently leading the marketing and the global community for the Flow ecosystem. And I've joined the team since I guess the early 2020 to lead the public launch of the Flow blockchain and all the subsequent global community growth strategies. In addition to supporting our ecosystem partners with their go-to-market strategy, and making sure they have a successful launch. Before that, I was in crypto since 2017, working on the Ethereum ecosystem side. So similar to many members of the Dapper Labs team, we have a very good experience and exposure from both the Ethereum side and the broader ecosystem before we joined, our adventure on Flow.
That's cool. So you have like a technical background too, but also you're doing like marketing too. So like it's
yeah. So you can say like I'm a technically oriented. Back in the day, I used to do a lot of data science and some development on Python front, etc. And of course, play around with Solidity. But I'm a much more, you can say, community oriented. I love bootstrapping ecosystems, helping regional teams or communities to grow organically. So that's what I found, my footing.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's cool. I study also the data science, but bit back then. But yeah, I like the same like community side. But anyway, back to Flow, like Dapper Labs, all this thing. But the Flow is kind of like a topic that I want to kind of get into this ecosystem because it's incredible. But anyway, so maybe could you give us what is Flow? The overview of what the Flow is for like someone who don't really know what it is.
Yeah, cool. So you can see Flow as almost like a new generation of blockchain that was built for the consumer adoption, right? It's like hyper scalable, environmentally friendly, but even more importantly, like consumer friendly, right? Because we're seeing even after 5 years of Ethereum or even 10 years of Bitcoin, there was still so much friction for the consumer adoption, right? So even the many years I've been in the Ethereum side, I've seen some attempt to progress, but the underlying infrastructure layer was just causing too much friction, right? In the sense back in the CryptoKitties day, for example, it took almost average almost 10 steps before anyone could play with CryptoKitties, right? You had to download your MetaMask, understanding what the seed word phrase was, set up your password, then go to Coinbase, create your account, buy ETH, send it to your MetaMask, and then finally you can start maybe purchasing or buying. Right? So as you can imagine, there was so much friction, and Flow was meant, of course, to solve the scaling issue, right? Because when Dapper Labs launched CryptoKitties, we kind of clogged the entire network, and you can see 4 or 5 years later, the same things are repeating, right? The gas is $200, $400, right? Per transaction. I tried to play a game on Ethereum yesterday. It cost me $200 per transaction. I was like, you know what? Maybe it's even too expensive for my blood. So that's what Flow was meant to solve, right? Scaling, but also lowering the friction for mainstream adoption. And that's why we were able to onboard global IPs, right? NBA and many others, right? With NBA Top Shot. And we have shown blockchain can go mainstream and crypto can go mainstream if you build it correctly, right? For the right user experience.
Yeah, that's a good. I also use the ETH Ethereum yesterday. It was like $500 for the gas fee. It's almost unusable. So basically, Flow really can scale at the global level. I mean, that's why obviously you guys are successful this year, being used by like millions of people, right? So I think like now people get that like scaling potential of like capability of like Flow, right? But what about the token? Like what is the like what kind of role this Flow token actually plays in the ecosystem?
Yeah. You can say like the Flow token is almost like the glue to make sure like the entire decentralized ecosystem network kind of functions as a like almost like a unison, like global like computer, right? Like or network of computers.
Yeah.
And the Flow token has like many important roles within the ecosystem. One of them is of course the security part of it. Like people like entities, people, so even community members running the nodes of the network, they need to stake or delegate token, right, to the node to signal their commitment, but also like their seriousness. So that's one for the security layer. And then you have like the transaction layer where Flow token will be used for both like transaction fee, which like super affordable, like fraction of cents per transaction, but also like storage layer, like every account created on Flow will require an initial minimum storage layer account, like denominated in Flow. And then as they add more NFTs to the account, over time that will have to, I guess, add the storage. So there's be like the demand for Flow will grow alongside like the adoption, right? Like even without like the high friction gas cost, right? That's happening on T. And then like of course there will be like a governance layer, and then like as a collateral, right? Like for many of the new ecosystem like DeFi, lending, and stablecoin, etc. Yeah.
I see. Yeah, there's so many like layers of like use cases, which is really always good to see, right? Because like some tokens are like, this is just for the gas fee, that's it, or like some token just governance, that's it. But like in your case, there's so many layers. That means there's a lot of like demand happening on top of this tremendous growth of the users. So that means like a price action could be also kind of promising too, probably. So okay, then that's token, right? So but again, like it seems like this is like literally like thousands of like projects, and especially like recently like focusing on NFT, like marketplace and all that kind of area, right? So like what is like a really unique thing about like a Flow compared to like your competitors?
I would say like the biggest differentiator for Flow is not like that is scalable, right? Like many other layer 2 or layer 1 ecosystem that they claim to be scalable too, right? Like so I think like new projects coming out will have scalability as part of the core, I guess, architecture. But very few understand the requirements or how to integrate the consumer aspect of it into the product layer, right? So Flow was built from day one with the consumer audience in mind. And you will see like very subtle like thoughtfulness behind it, right? For example, the developer can pay the transaction cost or even like the storage cost on behalf of the user on a product layer. So the payer of the transaction and the authorizer can be separate entity, right? So me as a user, I can come into your application and create my wallet and start transacting without any knowledge of the underlying structure or Flow, like only Flow, because as a developer, you can pay on their behalf. And it's seamless because on a native protocol layer, while on Ethereum, you have to build like all those complicated like over engineering of like the relayers or like like proxy and like gas station, right? Like just to do that single thing that should be like a native, right? Almost.
Yeah.
And then of course the gas cost is crazy, but that's a second. So and then also like every smart contract would come as a almost like every account would come as a smart contract, which means you can add like multi-sig as default to account, people, for example, in many blockchains, like when you want to change your private key, you have to change the entire account, right? Which means you have to transfer all your assets, NFTs and tokens to a new account.
Yeah.
You can imagine like if 1,000 of them is impossible, like painful and should like can be expensive. While on Flow, you can simply change the private key without changing your main account address or
interesting.
So it's like almost like resetting your password, but you control the password, right? Without having to change your entire account or identity. So there are a lot of those like thoughtfulness behind it that is meant for the mainstream adoption that a lot of developers, when they come to build on Flow, they realize, wow, you have taken care of like so many painful aspects that otherwise I have to build from scratch on other. And of course, the whole onboarding experience, right? Like the whole consumer aspect of it is part of the DNA of the Flow, right? Because we're not looking at just addressing, let's say, to the 1,000 or 5,000 well collectors, right, in the space. They're important in the ecosystem, but to truly bring the mainstream adoption, you have to look at the 10 million, 100 million, right, of users out there. And if there's one thing that technology, has taught us is like consumers will always go for convenience and accessibility.
Yeah.
Right. Look at the iPhone. Look at the all the apps. Right. They want ownership. Like they seek digital ownership, but not at the cost of accessibility, convenience. Right. Otherwise, we have a Linux desktop everywhere. Right. But you can see desktop war has won by Mac and Windows. Right. For that exact reason. Right. It's like there is a consumer level trade-off they're willing to make. And the crypto was still so far away, so low on what usability, accessibility means that we're trying to bring it to the consumer level, right? So that this whole thing will make Flow I guess almost like the go-to place, go-to platform to build anything that's consumer related or scalable, So yeah, I've said that's the biggest differentiator.
That's a really interesting point, which I didn't know, but that makes a lot of sense. Like those little things, one step that you don't need to do, for consumer, that makes you feel like this is much easier to use it. And then you're right, like iPhone, whatever it's easier to use, then people then come back and keep using it. Yeah, that's a really good point. So, I kind of want to switch the topic to the growth of this year. And I know that I heard that it has been crazy this year. So tell us what happened, what was the secret behind this incredible growth, and then what was the driver?
I guess, there's no secret recipe per se, but more just relentless commitment to improve the experience, right, for both developers and consumers. Just I guess showing the world what is possible, right, pushing the edge of what is possible. And we have shown with NBA Top Shot, right, that was the first, you can say, crypto experience that truly went mainstream, right? We onboarded almost more mainstream collectors from NBA fans than crypto ones, right? And we almost kind of ignited the wave of interest for the NFT space again, right? Back in February, March.
Yeah.
And NBA Top Shot was the fastest growing one, right? I guess you can call it faster growing, almost marketplace on the internet, because it generated almost $1 billion in peer-to-peer, secondary marketplace transactions in less than 1 year, right? Onboarded more than 1 million users, which in the crypto space is probably the largest wave, right? One of the largest wave, right, in the short term. But again, NBA Top Shot was not just alone, right? On the Flow blockchain, we have reached 2.8 million wallets to date within the first year, and that's just just getting that's just the tip of the iceberg, because there are so many more experience that needs to be released, so many IPs, right? For example, we had I guess today you can say we have NBA Top Shot, MotoGP, Olympics, CNN, but there are so many amazing IPs that titles that come in from NFL, La Liga, UFC, we also like recently announced a collaboration with Nixie, right, from Japan, and then like Double Jump, who are like a partner, and like also Genie, so with all the celebrity avatars, so like all those are like still yet to come, and we have already seen so much growth on the Flow side. And for example, we have like over 20 million NFT minted today. That's the demand of one, like, and 59 million transactions, right? Like on Flow so far. And to give you like a relative comparison, like with Ethereum and other ecosystem, right? Like, within 1 year, the first year, like we like on Flow, we processed 10 million NFT transactional trades on secondary market, right? Like, and by comparison, like Axie Infinity, which has blown like crazy, has only done around 6 million, 6 to 7 million, like on secondary trades. In the entire Ethereum ecosystem, that has done only 3 million NFT trades on secondary marketplace. So you can see like within like the trend, like comparative, right? Like Ethereum will probably lead by volume of trades, like in terms of dollar, but actually usage, adoption, Flow is actually growing, very fast.
Yeah. Oh my, that metrics is crazy. So, I'm kind of curious. That's happened this year, right? Did you like in your company, as an insider, right? Did you expect this growth, or like what was the internal reaction? Are people, how people reacting to that? Are people like, oh my goodness, like we didn't expect this, or like people like, oh yeah, this is, we expect it, or maybe your personal opinion? I don't know.
Yeah, we definitely have like a lot of expectation for Flow.
Yeah.
And on one side, there's no denial, like we were very happy with the growth like today. But to be honest, internally was like, okay, this is good validation, what we hope for, but how we can ignite it 10x next year, right? Like, so we're always like forward looking in the sense like, yes, the growth has been amazing, but this is nowhere near to the scale that we think like the crypto ecosystem deserves, or the entire crypto like sector deserves, right? Because we are almost like changing a whole new paradigm on what like ownership, value creation, distribution is handled, right, on an entire new like way of thinking. So because the power behind that, I totally expect like another 10x or even 100x adoption in the coming years. So to answer your question, like we're pretty happy with the growth, but this is just the beginning.
Just the beginning. Wow, that's really exciting. Yeah, okay. So obviously you mentioned about the number of wallets, transaction, number of NFT minted and stuff like that, right? That's crazy. But do you think like what is for example, what about the number? If you have number, but like what about the number of companies or projects working in the ecosystem right now for the upcoming projects? Is it kind of growing? What is the trend? Is it growing or steady or like?
No, has been growing very well. Like we within the first year, we like within even like the first 9 months, like we went from like 0 projects to like nearly like almost like 1,000 projects. I think like 700, 800 projects fully building on Flow. So we have seen like the first wave like coming in like with Flow Fest and everything, right? Like and then in the community side, and those are like more like serious projects that are ready to build like a full consumer experience, right? Like and then on the community side, we're like over like 5,000 developers, but like actively building or like interacting with the Flow ecosystem, especially on testnet side. So I would say like the momentum is growing. Like if by next year, like we follow this trend, we'll see like probably thousands, if not more, of projects like building a launch on Flow. And as you can see, like each of those, and also I'm very surprised by the originality of those projects, right? They're not just trying to purely copy like a PFP project and make like 10,000 NFT and that's it, right? We have a project from like for example Twitch streamer royalties and NFT video moments, right? To own like you as a content creator, right? You may imagine like the value is not just being there on the moment, but also imagine that all the followers that being therefore, like, since the beginning, have seen like the epic success and the fall of each creator, right? Imagine if you can own like those moments, right? Like in history for each creator. So we have Eternal that's unlocked in there. We have like, fashion, digital fashion, like 3D, like haute couture, like, imagine like all the high fashion houses, right? Doing like 3D. We have like metaverse. We have like, like massive multiplayer gaming with Chain Monster that's free to play, yet player driven and own economy, right? So then you can scale to like millions of adoption like users without like the hassle of like having to buy in initially, right? Like which the play to earn has shown like is a barrier. So we have like probably like 10 other sectors like music, comedy. We actually have like comedy NFTs for the first time.
Really? Comedy?
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. We have like stand-up comedy show that was produced just entirely for the NFT, right? Like so people can own both the IP and the jokes, right? And for example, personally, I can't wait to own like some Asian comedian like Ronnie Chan or like many others, right? Like so it's like it's like way richer and more diverse than just art or KP, which like I love both, but I feel like there's so much untapped potential. Yeah. So there's like a lot coming on. Like,
wow, I didn't know that comedy. You're right. Like there's just so many things that we can't even think of right now, right? Like I mean, people is gonna create this like NFT everywhere, and like tokenization. This trend keeps happening. So okay, it's gonna be fun. But the one thing is really good thing to know is that because this trend is increasing, like a number of projects increasing, which means the more ecosystem, development and more people come to the platform. So that's a good, really, really good trend to actually confirm with you today. So, as far as I, hear this story, right? You guys seems like just killing it, like no problem whatsoever, no struggle. But there must be something that's you think that's that like a Flow sees as like a challenge. Coming forward, like what is the like a biggest challenge for you guys right now, like in terms of ecosystem, in terms of like how you grow further?
I think like the challenge is from my point of view, because I deal with a lot of global ecosystem community, right? Is probably like to support organic growth of regional communities.
Yeah,
they are autonomous and self kind of empowering, right? And that is because with the crypto trend that since 2017 when I joined, is like you can see like it's very niche and almost like limited, right? Like in terms of exposure and geography, right? Like and that's one of the things we want to break, like the mold. Like we want to make it as global as possible and as regional, like so as distributed and decentralized, not just technology-wise, but also community, right? Like I think like Ethereum did a pretty good job there, but I want to also like from the Flow side, we also want to ignite and take it to the next level. So that's why like starting next quarter, we are actively actually growing like and empowering like regional community from Japan to South Korea to China to India, Russia, and like Vietnam, like many regions, right? In Asia, like to have like a strong core, let's say, community member, right? That can support and also assist like local projects, entrepreneurs, creators, artists, and also like community members, right? So that they can feel like this is real and this is both global and local. Mainly because otherwise people will start thinking like we perceive like the whole ecosystem as abstract, right? There's somewhere some core contributors around the world on a global level, and they are like doing something and like also project building. They might be like far from my own culture, right? Like those are the issues like we want to tackle, because it's very hard to do like because the crypto is global from day one. It's also very hard to address all the cultural differences, right? And demands and especially like UX is so different from culture to culture. So that's why we want to empower a lot of regional players and entrepreneurs to just jump in and build and be supported in doing that. and that is 10 times, 100 times harder than just saying, hey, let's roll out a global strategy. And anyone that understands English perfectly, then their advantage, because they can reach out for technical support, they can reach out for community support, right? But what about all the people that have a lot of intent, artistic value, and also like entrepreneurial drive, but they might not have like the same, I guess, like language advantage or other things. So that's the next wave that we want to unlock and power truly to make it global.
That's a really good thing to hear, because I think I think fundamentally the Japanese community, like this is, a lot of people who can read or listen to English and then, understand what's going on. But like there's also good number of people. I would say maybe more than half of the even crypto population right now don't, you can't really get information from English source. So like, they try to find information from Japanese source, but like sometimes those information is wrong, and because it's not the most trustful source anyway. Yeah. So I think, and also like Japan, there's so many artists, right? Like if try to get into like NFTs and all that kind of stuff. So I think a lot of Japanese people who are watching this, especially for the from the artist point of view, people are like, yes, it's gonna be nice to have a community.
Yeah.
But yeah, that sounds super exciting. And so definitely, I would like to talk about what you are thinking about, what you're gonna do upcoming future, like especially 2022 next year. And so I think I'm gonna wrap up the video here. But like, for those of you who are watching this video, we are gonna keep having conversation, especially about the future plans for the Flow and what's gonna happen next year onward in the second video, which is gonna be on Coin Club Japan. So link is down below, so please go there after this video. But before closing up, could you please maybe leave some closing remarks for the audience?
Yeah. I guess like, for the Japanese audience, like, the region has always been very strategic, for our ecosystem. And the good news is very likely starting next quarter, we are also growing a regional team there to support, right, from both like the high level, like, partnership collaboration, but also like technical support, community distribution, or marketing support, right, for all the artists and projects coming on board. So, and if you are interested in joining the team, right, like whether like from marketing side, the developer experience, or like, just community management, feel free to reach out, and we would love to talk to you all.
Awesome. Well, so where do people should go? Like where to talk to you, or?
They can go to onflow.org, and there's a career link that will have all the role available. But yeah, if they want to reach out on Twitter DM, like I'm always open.
Okay, awesome. Cool. I'm gonna make sure that put all the information down below. So if you're watching this video, please just go check it out. So anyway, thank you so much for sharing this incredible growth this year. It's not even over yet, so I'm super curious about what's gonna happen towards the end of the year. But let's keep conversation in the next video. So anyway, thanks so much for this part, and then let's keep the conversation next one. So thank you.
Yeah.
Cointelegraph. Like, subscribe, and hodl.